We finally got a timetable on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Sham says we'll get a decision in August or September. Funny enough, Giannis did tell Chris Haynes he was not happy when he found out that the Bucks were cutting Damian Lillard. But then Windhorst dropped a little bit of a bombshell that kind of contradicted Giannis's comments. He said Giannis was the one who actually recruited Miles Turner there. Whether he knew that Damian Lillard was going to be cut or not is unknown, but Giannis did play a role in recruiting Miles Turner to the Bucks. Joel, I remember a conversation we had a couple weeks ago. You told me if I'm Milwaukee, I don't care where Giannis wants to go. If it's the Knicks, I'm not taking a guy like Karl Anthony Towns and all that money in return just to make him happy. Ironically, I highlighted that the Bucks got Dame because the Blazers did not listen to Lillard's request to be in Miami. Now they've cut him and stretched his deal across 5 years. We all know this. For me, it's time for Milwaukee to move on from Giannis. I'm not waiting until August or September. Now, because they have listened to him and felt the pressure of listening to him over the last half a decade, they are paying Miles Turner essentially $220 million over 4 years. I know his agreed upon contract was 4 years, 108, something around that nature. But because of that stretch contract over the next 5, Damian Lillard's money and Miles Turner money means that they are paying Turner $220 over the next 4 years. So, Joel, my question to you is, what is your reaction, and who would you call about Giannis if you were the Bucks now?
This was a desperation move. If I had to call a team, I'm calling the team that has the most assets in the NBA. And right now, that is OKC. I think that's realistic because they just won a championship with their core. And the next two teams are Houston and the Spurs. They have a lot of draft capital. I think the Bucks delayed the inevitable. Miles Turner is a good player. It was a good signing. But when you take into account that they essentially were a team in debt and then maxed out their credit cards even more by bringing on Miles Turner, there's still no room to improve this roster further than this point. They don't have any intriguing assets, and Giannis is going to find out pretty soon that this roster still cannot compete. I think on the bright side is that if the Bucks did want to maximize their assets, Giannis is going to get you a treasure chest, of course. But also Miles Turner is pretty valuable. And I think his skill set and archetype around the league is sought after. So if they move on from Giannis, they probably are moving on from Miles Turner as well. And I think Miles Turner could get you a good young player and a pick or two. So I think in terms of asset management, just bringing on Miles Turner to the team, it has allowed the Bucks to maybe dangle both of those players to get some more assets if they want to go into a full rebuild. But I think the Bucks did this out of complete desperation, and this was the only move they could have made to even move the needle a little bit by stretching out Dame's contract.
Yeah, I'm looking at the roster, and it's basically them going all in on Kyle Kuzma and Miles Turner as their second and third best players. They still do not have a point guard on this roster. In fact, they have called the Memphis Grizzlies about Scottie Pippen, who right now is a second or third string on a mediocre Memphis team. They have called about Scottie Pippen for him to start on this current roster. Obviously, the Grizzlies rebuffed it, but that's how desperate this team is now. And because Turner and Kuz are the second and third best options, if I'm Giannis, do I have to wait until August or September to make that decision? I know he played a part in recruiting Miles Turner, but he can't realistically look himself in the mirror and say that this team is any better than last year's team. I can make an argument that it might be even worse. So, not to mention, they don't have a future. Why wait for Giannis to pull the plug right before the season starts? And the Bucks need to pull the plug right now. I know that John Horst, he has had a history of doing risky all-in moves. He continues to operate that way. But if they decided to trade Giannis Antetokounmpo, I don't think anybody would blame them.
They wouldn't, because that's the situation they're in right now. But I think they're going to drag this as long as possible. I don't think the Bucks are going to move off of Giannis anytime soon until he comes to the table and demands that trade.
I think you're right. On the Damian Lillard front, he's heading back to Portland for rehab, and the twist is that the Blazers have called him about a possible reunion, as well as multiple other teams. Miami's back in the mix, his original destination that he wanted to go to back in 2023. The big name teams are also in the mix. Joel, what do you see Dame landing when all this shakes out?
I like the Rockets or the Timberwolves. I think one of those two teams, a team that needs a point guard, another dynamic scorer on it. But I find myself questioning who Damian Lillard could even help because he's coming off a ruptured Achilles.
Don't do
and
that.
he's going to be 25% of the player that he was before. He didn't play defense before. He was a bad defender before. He's going to be even worse off the injury. And is he going to be back to his all-star self? No, probably not. He's not going to be that. Is he going to be good enough to help a team and move the needle a little bit? Sure, I guess. But this is a serious career-ending injury. And he injured his left leg, his left Achilles. That's your plant leg. That's what you use to generate all that power when you're driving to the basket. So, like, I think Dame is still a huge risk for any team that wants to take a chance on him. The intriguing part of it is that you are going to get Dame for nothing. You're going to give him the minimum or the mid-level exception, and he's going to join your team. So it's not a huge risk. But then again, it's like I think we have to temper our expectations for what we should expect when Dame comes back.
You just sat here with a straight face and said who he could help. Boston Celtics next year are a team that could flank old Damian Lillard coming off a torn Achilles with a Jaylen Brown, a Jason Tatum, and a Derek White defensively. I think he could help them get over the hump in the limited options they already had. And he brought up high risk and then kind of walked it back because he realized, oh, wait, his money's getting stretched. You know, he could sign for MLE or whatever amount of money he wants to. That's the reason it's low risk wherever Damian Lillard signs. I know he doesn't fit everywhere, including the places that have called about him, the New York Knicks, the Golden State Warriors, the LA Lakers. Those three teams make zero sense. But the Boston Celtics do, especially on the timeline they are. Celtics aren't trying to win it this year. They're going to have a ton of cap room next year. They could offer him a little bit more than the MLE. They could outbid other teams that want Damian Lillard for his services. I think he can still commit to winning, and it's a very, very low-risk move.
Anthony Simons or Dame coming off an Achilles injury?
Damian Lillard.
I think that's a toss-up. I could go Anthony Simons. The Celtics just going to have two players coming off an Achilles injury?
Good. This is a new day. Do you not remember Kevin Durant? Everybody wrote him off in 2019 in his mid to late 30s, and he's still out here hooping. Actually, he's 33.
Rare.
Yeah. Okay. He is rare. Damian Lillard's rare too. He's one of the clutchest players to ever play this game.
Not as rare as Kevin Durant.
We're talking about a top 75 player of all time. That's who we're talking about with Damian Lillard. We're not talking about Anthony Simons here.
The top 75 player is going to be 37 years old when he comes back.
Exactly. And he can sign for a mid-level exception with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. He can help that team.
Yeah, he can maybe in theory help that team. I just don't think that Dame, like, yeah, sure, if it's on a veteran minimum or a mid-level exception, yeah, like, there's no risk involved there, but I think we need to temper our expectations for what Dame is going to look like when he comes back.
They're tempered. They are tempered. I'm just saying he could help that team. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a huge, massive risk move, and you're sitting here wondering who he can help. He can help the Boston Celtics. That's all I'm saying.
He can help a lot of teams with the mentorship. We'll see. We'll see how good of a player he is when he actually comes back.
Is there any other team he could help outside of Boston in your mind?
I like Minnesota. I like Houston. Can he be better than Fred VanVleet coming off that injury? I think so. I think he can. Can he be better than an aging Mike Conley? I think so.
And better than Anthony Simons? I think so.
Anthony Simons? I don't know. I would take Anthony Simons.